Okay then, and welcome to another episode of the Ignite Your Mind podcast with myself, Sanjay Patel. I hope you guys are doing well. And this week, again, I've got another special guest to tell his heroic story. He's doing some cool stuff at the moment, some stuff that's really out of people's comfort zones and, you know, just generally seeking a lot of discomfort, it looks like. But that's all good. That's what it's all about, right? Because that's where miracles occur. So, without further ado, Rich, mate, how are you doing?
Yo, how we doing?
Good. No, thank you for jumping on, mate. I appreciate it. So yeah, I mean, let's just dig straight into it. Well, first of all, just on a quick note, we met in Ibiza, didn't we? What was it? I think it was like 5 years ago now.
I don't even think it was that long ago, mate.
No, don't say that. I've lost a year already. Jim.
It feels it. I don't know. I can't have been 4. Maybe you might be right. You know. God, time's flying, isn't it?
I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, that was kind of the first time we met, and our good friend Nicholas, our old Nicky Burry.
Yeah. It was a really good trip, actually, for a number of reasons. I needed it at the time, and I guess we'll come on to sort of where I'm at now. But I do remember we were on very, very different waves on that trip. You were quite chilled and having a good time, and I remember being. Yeah, I mean, I was really going for it, wasn't I? So,
well, I don't know if I was chilled on the first night. I think I was maybe a bit excited. I mean, I'm an excitable little character. So I like when I'm first. That was the first time in Ibiza, and obviously I'm massively into music, so I was just like overload of adrenaline, and it just completely ruined me, didn't it? But anyway,
maybe that's why I was doing you a credit then, mate. You could have said, "Yeah, I had loads of self-control and I had a really, you just went hard one night and ruined yourself."
Basically, yeah, it's just the standard stupid things you do. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. But yeah, no. So, Rich, take us back to when you were growing up as a kid. What were you like, or what you can remember you were like?
Well, this question is a lot easier to answer having had like 2 or 3 years worth of counselling. I mean, anyone knows that if you go down the counselling route and you speak to someone about life or how you're feeling, there will always be an element of that conversation that sort of harks back to when you were a child. So I'm able to articulate this answer quite well now, but if you'd have asked me this probably 3 or 4 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to give you much.
Really?
So yeah, definitely. It's only on reflection that I understand some of the mental health challenges that I had and do have still. So yeah, I mean, as a child, I was sort of borderline ADHD, and I only found that out sort of later in life when I had really, really bad depression. I was really going through some stuff, and my mum sort of brought it up and mentioned that when I was a kid, I was tested, and I was right on the borderline. And back in those days, you didn't really sort of push someone and give someone a label for the obvious reasons. And so I was told that I just might have had a bit of energy and I was a bit excitable, but really, you know, I was super excitable. I had absolutely no attention span whatsoever. If you were to ask a teacher what I was like in pretty much every year of school, it was intelligent guy, should do better than he does, won't pay attention, can't focus. And that sort of label sort of carried through. And so I would say that definitely as a child, I was extremely frustrated. I didn't understand why I was the way I was. I didn't understand why I couldn't just sit amongst my classmates and do work.
What age were we talking when you were like that?
Well, it was from quite a young age, because anyone who has experience of ADHD and ADHD kids, what you'll sort of see is that the younger they are, the more sort of reckless they are. And ADHD, in a weird sort of way, calms down the older you get. So as a kid, young kid, 5, 6 years old, I was crazy. And then that behavior sort of heading into sort of to 10, 12, 13, 14 into my teens sort of manifested in, I think I had like a mask on, and so I was the class sort of clown. I was quite naughty. You know, that was, I almost, there were times when I would almost deliberately get into trouble to just put me out the pain. You know, so I knew that I wasn't going to sit there for an entire lesson and listen to this crap. So how about I just get myself sent out and I make people laugh, and then that masks what's really going on. I wasn't aware of that at the time, but now that I look back on it, I was really, really struggling. So I'd say that my childhood was a really good one from a family perspective. I had a great family, sisters, mum and dad, really, really close, looked after well, never wanted for anything. But then on the inside, I was extremely frustrated and didn't really understand myself and sort of never really felt comfortable.
Yeah. Were you into sports and stuff back then?
Yeah, I was into sports.
Couldn't stop.
Yeah, so I was, again, I look back on this now, I was extremely good at football, and, I had stints playing for sort of Reading Academy and Fulham, and I played for my county, and I was always sort of on this sort of the perimeter of that, and loved football, absolutely obsessed with it. But the older I got, the more I got distracted by other things, and then before long, football was a thing of the past, and I'm moving on.
Do you think like at that point that was like an antidote to like what was going on for you a little bit? Because obviously 100%. Now when you do fitness, it's like it's a game changer, right?
Yeah, 100%. The fact of the matter is, I again now I know. At the time I didn't. But football was my absolute release, and so I became obsessed with it, and that's all I ever did, all I ever spoke about, all I ever thought about. And I always found that I was most comfortable when I was doing some sort of exercise, when I was sort of pushing my physical, then it gave my mental a break. And that's something that's carried on through life, and something that I do to this day is I know when I'm training regularly, I'm in a much more content, happy place.
Nice, like that. All right, so talk us through when you were getting into your sort of later teens, like 16, 17, into sort of early adulthood. What were you doing then? Did you go to school, university, or anything like that?
No, so I easily could have gone to university. As I say, like I had a brain on me, but I didn't utilize it very well. Well, I didn't know how to. I couldn't focus. I couldn't get the most out of myself at that time. I was a little bit misunderstood by teachers, and misunderstood by myself. And so the sooner I could get out of education, the better. I passed my driving test at 17. But sort of around that time, I really found alcohol. I mean, nothing crazier than any other kid.
Yeah, as you do, like a 15, 16-year-old, you start getting into...
Yeah, I mean, it's all about what can we do on the weekend? Let's get pissed. Let's have some fun. I was always quite reckless with drinking, so I was always the one who would be, unconscious by 11 o'clock while everyone else... Yeah, and it was I would take it to the extreme, and so I was doing that really, really regularly, and I passed my driving test, and 2 months later I made the most stupid decision in the world to go out for a drive while in mid-party to show someone my car. I was at the time, well, they don't know for sure, but when I was breathalyzed, I was 4.5 times over the limit. I was driving down country roads. My mate had sort of egged me on to show him the car, so I took him. We went for a drive. God knows how I got back from that drive. And I dropped him off. And I decided I'd go back out. And so I went back out again. And this just goes to show the sort of mind state I was in. Went around a country road. The next thing I know, I'm unconscious, upside down in a ditch, trapped in a car that's filling with smoke. And my legs are on fire, and I've basically rolled my car and smashed it, and I'm trapped. And so, life flashing before your eyes. I've never been so nervous in my entire life. I was absolutely petrified. In the end, the fire engines had to come. They cut me out. I was arrested on the spot, and that was the end of any thoughts that I was going to.
Were you all right though? You didn't have any. You were upside down, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was. So when I ended up having to go to court, and when I was in court, they said that the only reason I'm alive is because my car had an airbag. Now, this is at a time where a lot of cars wouldn't have had an airbag.
Yeah.
Because we're talking. I mean, don't know when it was, early 2000s, and people had Peugeot 106s and things like that.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have been alive without the airbag, and they said categorically, had my mate still been in the car, he'd be dead. And that was just the biggest wake-up call ever. And so, that was, I mean, my mum and dad were on holiday at the time. They had to be called. I'm staying with my girlfriend, now wife's parents. They were having to look after me. Like, it was just quite literally a total car crash. And so that then sort of spurred me on to sort of look at life a little bit. And I sort of made the decision then that going to uni wouldn't have been for me. I'd have made the wrong decisions, almost certainly. I was still making them. And so I went into sales and I became an estate agent.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's interesting to hear you say all that. Like when you talk about it now and those situations, and then you look back now, like obviously we know, like we're older, we realize how stupid some of the decisions was. But those decisions, if you think about a certain situation, that if you see a group of people, a group of friends that are young, and you see that one standout character, you kind of know now, or you can kind of gauge what they're actually going through, and it's not the surface level stuff. They're actually going through some deeper inner shit, right?
Oh, really? Yeah. And but at the time, I never would have known.
Of course, you can't know.
It was a front, and I was playing up, and I was looking for reaction, and I would, you know, and But really, now looking back on it, it was just a mask because I was an extremely confused individual. Didn't understand why I wasn't like other people with certain things, and then it manifests in sort of bad behaviour and extremism, and that's still something that happens to me now. But I'm just much more self-aware of it. And so I know when it's happening and I can control it better.
Yeah. Do you see that happening now, like not for you, but like to other people, like your sort of age range or your sort of age group?
Again, I'm quite self-aware of this stuff. I don't necessarily see the ADHD thing. I'm a big one for calling out mental health, and I know when someone's, got a bad energy, or when, I've got friends that if they walk into the room, I know what's going on. I know when people are anxious. I'm a head of marketing. I've got a team of people. We went into lockdown, and I jumped on a call with Jodie. She won't mind me saying this. She lives in the States. She's in Austin, and she jumped on the call, and I took one look at her face before she even opened anything, and I was like, "Whoa, you need some time off." And as it happened, she was really struggling. She's in isolation. She hasn't seen. I think she went 60 days without seeing another human being.
Bloody hell!
Which is nuts.
This is another story altogether, isn't it? How bad it's got. But But
the point being is, I'm sort of quite aware of it, and so I see it, and I have this probably quite like yourself. I have this massive urge to just help people. That with fitness, they're the two things: is push my body hard, and I almost feel like it's selfish sometimes, even though I know it's not. It's selfish being selfless, but helping people helps me, and so I spot it, and I'm always wanting to do something about it. And she's fine now, and we got her through it, and there's plenty of other stories like that. So I definitely look at other people's mental health, and I'm very aware of when someone's suffering or going through something, and I'm always there to make sure that I help out.
Yeah, no, nice. Yeah, I think you're so right. Like, especially if you've experienced a situation, either yourself or someone else that's close to you going through it, you can just automatically, for the rest of your life, you're going to be able to pick up, because it's such an impactful thing, isn't it? It's not just a small thing. This is one of the biggest things in the world. Like, it needs to be taken seriously. But I don't think it still isn't. It's still not taken too seriously.
It's getting much better.
It's getting much better, 100%. There's a lot more awareness about it, but there's still not enough. There's nowhere near enough. And it still is. I still have today some conversations with people, and they still think it's a little bit taboo, and they don't want to speak about it. I don't think it's that they don't want to speak about it. It's they're scared that they might slip into some category which they think, actually, I might need to work on this. That's the point, because if you don't work on it, it can hit you at any point. I was speaking to some guy who was 55 years old, never had any mental health symptoms, conditions, illnesses, anything. Then all of a sudden, bang, got hit down with anxiety and depression, couldn't get out of bed. All of a sudden, he was scared because he didn't know what was going on. But because he's an older guy, like, fair enough, but he didn't understand it. And he was all of a sudden made very aware. He's fine now, but he was all of a sudden made very aware. And I'm just saying to people that it can hit you at any point, so you need to look after yourself.
Yeah, 100%. I've seen that as well. I've seen people come down with stuff out of nowhere, and the mind's a crazy thing, and we don't really understand it. And I think you have to treat the mind in the same way that you treat your body. And you work at your body, you work at your fitness. You want to look healthy, you want to be sort of slim and in shape and feel good. But no one really works on their mind, and it's super important, certainly for people like me.
Yeah, no, definitely. All right, cool. So I've sort of lost place now. I know we went off a little bit. So talk us through. Yeah, so you're head of marketing now. So talk a little bit about your career and how that's impacted you mentally along your sort of journey.
Okay, cool. So next phase of that journey, which is quite a nice segue actually. So the next phase of that journey was I was an estate agent. So I'd say my career is probably split into two. The first half being my younger years, I was out and out sales. And I worked in some of the environments that you would really, some of the most cliche, stereotypical sales environments you can think of. I had a really bad period in life when I was an estate agent. We're not talking estate agents nowadays. I know that you're just getting into that field, and you're doing an amazing job of doing it very, very differently. But we're talking here about the bring in a load of wide boys as young as possible, work them. I mean, we work 7 days a week. We worked from 8 till 7 every single day. We had one weekend a day off every 2 weeks, and we were paid peanuts. And it was a really, really crazy atmosphere. They worked us to the bone, but then they sort of almost paid us with beer. It was like everything was a social, everything was an award, you know, and so I got in a really, really, really bad spot. And that's probably where I encountered my mental health, poor mental health for the first time, was just the relentlessness of going out, drinking, being wrapped up in everything around that, and just sort of burning myself out. And I got to the point after about 4 or 5 years of doing it. I remember vividly, again at the time, this isn't when mental health was spoken about, but I remember walking into the office and just bursting into tears in front of my manager, and I just could not do it anymore, and just walking out and phoning my mum and saying I can't do this anymore. I remember her distinctly just saying, leave, like nothing is worth you feeling like this. And at the time I just put that down to probably my own weakness a little bit. That's how I felt. I felt like I was weak.
Well, in that environment, I would assume you probably would.
Yeah, and you know, you're surrounded by people who are. One of the stories of my life is I'm surrounded by people who are doing things I can't. And that doesn't necessarily mean they're doing positive things. It actually normally means they're doing negative things. So people who can drink all weekend long but wake up on a Monday and function normally, you know, something I've never been able to do, but I know plenty of people who can. But in that environment, it was really, everything was amplified, everything was extreme. And so I really struggled there. And in the end, I got to the point where I walked away and I had nothing to walk to. So that's how sort of bad it got. I had bills, I had outgoings, but you know, option one is to risk not being able to pay for stuff and not being able to live. Option two is to stay in the environment. So that's how bad it got.
Mate, I mean, it's just you just touched on something. Like, unfortunately, that still happens today, in a big way, and it's a real shit situation. It's really, really shit, and it's just not how we're not in that world anymore. We're moving on from that world, like, you know. Anyway, so then what happened? Then you went into another role. Well, no, actually, talk me through actually what happened. Like when you left there, obviously you walked out. Like what happened then?
Yeah, so I think there are 3 things that have happened to me in my life that have, you know the term make or break. So there are 3 things that have happened in my life that have made me, and all of them were negative. So one was me crashing my car at a young age. I truly believe if I hadn't have crashed that car, I'd be dead. Just the way I was going and the stuff that I was doing. The second was me reaching a point where I had to just walk away from everything. And the third we'll probably come on to. So I left and I had nothing to go to. And luckily at the time I had a friend who ran his own, digital marketing company. And he sort of said, look, he could see that I was in a bad way. And he basically just said, look, come work for me for a bit, you know. And I was very, very lucky. I'm sure I'd have found something, but I'm almost positive that the thing I would have found would have been sales and would have been the same problem.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so I went and worked for him for a while. I realised that I had a real sort of passion for marketing or being creative. And yeah, it was really fun. It was a total break from the norm, and we were running marketing campaigns. We were building the websites, and I was sort of really aggressively learning on the trade, but on the spot. You know, most of the time I didn't really know what I was doing, but you know, you learn quick. And fast forward a year. I sort of thanked him, and I went and sat up by myself. And so I started my own small little digital marketing company. Again, another risk, because I had outgoings, and at this point I was, you know, I think we were just about to buy a house. But I could see a gap in the market for me to be able to continue doing what I was doing, but do it for myself. And so I did. And a couple of years went by, and some great times I picked up some great clients, and I was really self-sufficient, and I worked my own hours, and I was super happy doing it. And that was a real success for me. And eventually a really big digital agency came along, and what had actually happened is I'd beaten them on a pitch. So you're talking about an agency, I think at the time they were the top under 100-person digital agency in the country. Nice. With clients like ITV and PlayStation. Yeah. And I was literally sitting in a study on my own, employing no one. And I pitched against them on one, and they wanted to know who it was. Long story short, they asked me if I'd come and work for them, and made it really compelling. And, you know, it was sort of at the moment I'm working with really small businesses and enjoying it, but only going so far. Yeah. Within a week, I was sitting in PlayStation's boardroom and talking creative ideas. And so again, it was a really good decision to put my ego to the side, go back into employment, but really sort of expand my experience and my knowledge base. And so, yeah, I had 4 or 5 really amazing years at that place, and sort of worked with some of the biggest brands and traveled the world. And it was a really good decision. But by then, I'm then firmly into the marketing camp, which is sort of the second half of my career. So it's by chance, really. You know, yeah. I didn't one day say, do you know what, I want to get into marketing. Someone offered me an opportunity, and I took it, and I never looked back.
Well, this is the thing. I know this sounds cliche, but everything does happen for a reason. If you didn't do that pitch to that certain person, you wouldn't have got asked to do that job, and then you wouldn't have got employed, and you wouldn't have made that decision. But then if you didn't do that, you wouldn't have, if you didn't make the decision to actually start running your own business, you would, yeah, it's a spiral effect, isn't it? It's a snowball effect.
It is. You just got to do what you think is right. And exactly. You know, I've always been really dubious of people who say that who have this really clear pathway that they've mapped out in life, and they know exactly what they're going to do. In a weird way, I'm envious, because I'm just not that organized. That's like the ADHD in me. The thought of writing out a plan and then just executing it is a real challenge for me. So I've always got by on like intuition and just making good not always, but good decisions, and it's served me well.
Literally, I was about to say that I've learned now to always follow my intuition. Just listen to that, because generally speaking, that's what everyone's different. It's what you want to do as a person. It's your decisions, what you want to do, not everyone else's. When you were saying about everyone's got their life mapped out, or, you know, they've got a clear path. I was one of those people. I thought I had it all mapped out. I thought I had a clear path. My God, how wrong was I? But the thing is, I wouldn't have, if I didn't start making different decisions, and I probably wouldn't have realized that. And that's the beauty of it. And now I just embrace it, because it's a journey. It's like unpredictable, and I've learned to love the unknown, and like what can happen, right? And what can potentially happen if you put yourself out there. What about your mental health side of it? Like when you were working in quite a, you know, good position of employment. Now you've got a team. Like for those 4 years, like what was your mental health doing? Were you in a good place? Because this, again, Rich, this is quite taboo, mate. Like not many people speak about this, that are in good positions, look on the face of it that they're doing really well, but really underneath they might not be. Who knows, right?
My stint in the digital agency was the third thing in my life that I sort of that made or broke me. So I mean, this is a long story, so I'll try not to make it too long. So I had quite a high pressure job towards the end of that. So I was the sort of sales and marketing director. Ultimately, my main role within that business at the time was pitching. So anyone who's ever done pitching will know that it's an extremely, well, I always found it an extremely stressful process, and that stress came from myself. So I put myself under huge pressure. I had a real fear of failure. I still have a fear of failure, but back then it was extreme to the point where it was detrimental to my mental health. So I could not bear the thought of me pitching to someone and them saying no, and me having to come back to the office and tell people that I'd lost something. That to me was just my worst nightmare. And so what happened was I put myself through a really unhealthy process of just absorbing myself in the weeks leading up to a pitch and just draining everything I had, giving it everything. I'd over pitch. If we were, if the average person presents a pitch document that was 20 pages, mine would be 60. I'd cover everything, and because of that, I won so many of them, but it wasn't good for me. So I'm in a high pressure environment, good company and a good culture, but I'm really giving myself a hard time.
Can I just pause you for a second? Just at this moment, when you're at this point, did you not, were you reflecting back to sort of situations that had happened and sort of marrying them up with what was going on now, like how you started feeling and stuff? Or were you just like, no, go in the role?
I think I had a bit of imposter syndrome is probably the best way to
Okay.
I didn't believe that I was good enough to be doing the job I was doing. So I was worried that when I did lose, and I did now and again, that people would judge me and not believe I was good enough to do the job that I was doing. And so it only takes a couple of times for you to get it wrong, and you've suddenly got that. You've got to break, you're really worried and you're anxious about what's to come, rather than just, I'm not very good at putting things to the side, forgetting about them and moving on. Like this shit lingers. Yeah. So that's how I was feeling. So I've got this really high pressure environment that I'm working in, and I'm giving myself a real hard time. I'm not giving myself any breaks whatsoever. Don't believe I'm good enough. People would laugh at me about the way my self-talk. So I would, I would talk to them about how I'm performing or some of the stuff that I'm doing, and they would be like, "What are you on about?" And I would distinctly remember it, that they weren't seeing the same picture as me. They were seeing this positive, amazing sort of person doing great things within a company, and all I can see are the negatives. I don't think I'm good enough. I don't think it's great. So that's the sort of the internal dialogue I've got going on. But I'm still performing, but it's taking everything mentally to do so. At the same time, my wife and I, so we were only married probably 3 or 4 years, I think, but we'd been together since we were 16. We split up, so various reasons, but I would probably now, again, reflecting back, put the majority of them down to just my crazy mental health at the time. We weren't getting on. We had a 3-year-old and a 6-month-old, so we had 2 young kids. It was an extremely difficult time. And we split up. And so if you think about the type of sort of pressure that you've got inside the office, I've now more than doubled that outside as well, because I'm living on my own for the first time. So I had to go and get an apartment. I'd never lived alone ever. It was either parents and then straight into someone with Lisa. So I'm living by myself. Half of my time I've got a baby and a 3-year-old, so I'm a single parent. And crazy things like I don't know how to use a washing machine because I've never used one, and I'm not massively great at cleaning the apartment, so it's an absolute dump, and just all of this stuff, and it's just mounting. And the final thing I threw in the mix was the weekends that I didn't have the kids. I was just caning it all weekend, because it was almost like I lived a life of, it was a double life. It was one weekend I was with families and seeing my family and going out and doing really amazing things with the kids and spending time with them. And then suddenly I'm single. And so I'm going out and I'm absolutely caning it. And so that was just the melting pot of for me, of destruction. And I just totally broke down mentally. So had the worst mental health. I was going into work crying most days. Sometimes I would drive into the car park of the agency that I worked, and I would drive in the entrance and then drive out the exit again and go home and sit, because I just could bear the thought of walking into the office. My anxiety was at times so horrendous that, I mean, I can give you a couple of stories. They used to do when it was someone's birthday, they'd bring over a birthday cake, put Stevie Wonder on the Sonos, and everyone sing happy birthday around the person's desk. I mean, that's most people's worst nightmare, to be honest. But anyway,
I was about to say, doesn't sound fun at all.
It's not ideal. So the person I'm sat next to, it's their birthday, and everyone crowds round, and I'm sat there, and I'm not feeling great, and I'm having probably a crappy conversation over text, and I had the worst panic attack, and I could not be around all these people that were close to me, and I've walked out into the corridor, burst into tears, and I just had to walk into my car and go home. Now, the pressure of that is extreme when you already don't think you're good enough to do your job. You already think people are judging you, and now what you're having to admit is that you're not of sound mind. So you definitely can't do your job, and it's this just perpetual sort of fear. So that was a really, really bad time. And I guess the time that basically that there was a 24-hour period where it came to a head. I was going to pitch to a big brand, and my team were already there, and I was half an hour late, and I'm driving in my car along this really fast road, trees either side. As I'm driving along, a thought just came into my head that I just remember vividly thinking, I might have even said it out loud, but I definitely thought it. I would do anything to drive my car into one of those trees. Anything. Like, I just wanted to die. Hands down, I could not cope with how I was feeling anymore. I didn't see any possible way of making it feel better and making me feel better. I was done. And it was such a strong feeling. And so I pulled over on the side of this busy road, and I got out of my car, and I was sick. I just puked. That's how intense the feelings were. And I sort of sat there for a while, on the sort of feet out of the car, just getting some fresh air. And it was just the lowest of low times. And I'm on the way to a pitch, but silly old Rich, I don't cancel. I get in my car, do the 20 minutes, get over there, meet the team, and we go in and we pitch to this brand. And of course, I'm leading. And so anyway, so we did this 1.5 hour long presentation.
After all of this?
And no one knew. And so, and because I was, what I was brilliant at was hiding it. At this point, I have told no one in the world how I'm feeling, and this has been going on for about 2 months. So no one knows. I mean, I'm sure people were slightly concerned sometimes, and I was definitely more distant. People weren't stupid, but no one knew. I hadn't spoken about it.
No one knew the extent of actually what you were going through. Yeah.
No. And so I've gone in there, we've done the pitch, and to this day, I don't know how, but we won it. And I've told the team that I pitched with after this about what happened, and they're still incredulous. Like, they don't understand how that's possible.
Mate, that's madness.
It is madness. And so we won it. I drove home. I remember, because I got home at about 4:30. I'm not a big one for sleep. I don't like sleeping in or going for naps or anything like that. I'm too fucking hyper. Anyway, got in 4:30. I remember laying down on my bed. And the next thing I know, I open my eyes and it's 8 o'clock the following morning. So I've done like a stint, and I just was absolutely fucked. Like just exhausted just from the I guess the activity in my brain. And it culminated in me waking up, and I got a bottle of vodka, because that was just weirdly the nearest thing to me, a load of pills. I sort of got them all out on my bed, and I was sat on the edge of the bed. And I was like, this is it. Like, I'm done. I'm bawling. I'm crying my eyes out. And to this day, I don't really know. This is how crazy my brain can be. I even give myself grief for not killing myself. I'm like, I feel like I bottled it, which is crazy. I know how crazy that sounds, but I feel like I didn't have the guts to do it. But what I did was, I had it all laid out. I was crying. I had, the intent was there. I sent a message to my dad, and I was just like, I told him where I was at, what I was doing. And he did the 10-minute journey to my house in about 5, and he came through the front door. And that was sort of like the beginning of really the process of getting better. And I went and stayed with them for a while, and they realized just how bad I was.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that's the story of that place. And weirdly enough, I still have such fond memories of working there, but it was just always clouded by this stuff that was going on.
Crazy, right? Crazy. But do you know what I'm observing, like the journey from childhood, going through what you went through, then early teens, then into early work phases, going through these situations, the car incident, and then working in the next job and just beating yourself down and still wanting to be on the top of your game. Like it sounds like you've been through some massive hurdles, right? Like
Yeah.
like crazy hurdles, and just that's a bonkers story. You still pitched after having a panic attack and having thoughts that you wanted to run into a tree. Like it's and being like physically sick. Like your mind has actually got you physically sick. Not even like eating the wrong food. Like
No.
imagine that. Like
Yeah.
that's how extreme it can be, right? But people need to actually realize this, and I'm glad you're open about this, because this happens, unfortunately, to so many people that are still not spoken up,
Well,
which is so important.
do you know what I did? I mean, there's the journey of getting better wasn't a plain sailing either. But I wrote my story a little bit afterwards, and I was on the up, and I started to feel better. And reflecting back, I really wanted to start helping people, or at least giving a bit of inspiration and saying, this is what happens, it's okay, blah blah. I wrote my story, basically what I just told you, wrote it out, and I posted it on LinkedIn with a view to, this happens. And it's quite a brave thing to do, actually, now that I look back on it, because, the world of LinkedIn is a taboo place. You are not it's probably one of the most false social networks going, because people are in work and job mode. They're not comfortable to be their true self. And, but I wanted to let people know this stuff happens. And so I did. I kid you not. It went viral. And probably at the height of it, certainly for like a good 4 to 6 week period, I was getting about 3 to 5 inbox messages a day from people, mainly men, who were reading my story and saying, that is me, or I know that's my sister, or
Right.
whatever they were saying, right? And it was like, it opened my eyes to how many people are going through this but don't talk about it. It was insane. And it was colleagues, some people in my extended family, friends of friends, total strangers. They were all feeling compelled to say, like, I just want you to know that, like, this is me. It's so good that you're saying this. Like, I'm glad it's not just me. Was the sentiment.
I mean, how did that make you feel, like getting those kind of messages from those people that were going through what you had been through?
I mean, it was comforting to know that I wasn't this freak of nature, and that this is quite a normal thing. I would actually say it's normal, and that's quite a crazy thing to say, because we consider normal as someone just going through everyday life without a care in the world and just getting on with their life. I don't think that is normal. Not when you have your eyes open to it and you just see how many people are affected by stuff. And there's like a scale, isn't there? And, I'm at the extreme scale sometimes. There are some people that are a couple of dips a toe in the water, but they're still feeling something. It's perfectly normal to not be okay all the time, So I was quite inspired by it, and it led me to start really thinking about how can I help these people. And so I started the 10% project, which was at the time I basically used my experience of going from I want to kill myself to I'm now a fully functioning adult again, and actually starting to thrive in most areas of my life. I'd sort of documented that, and I turned it into a course. And it followed the principle think, body, fuel. So how to start working on your brain. And that would be things like creating habits, or structuring your day, or working from a to-do list and ticking things off and winning the day, all of this brain stuff. Then you've got body, which is, I firmly believe if you want a healthy mind, you have to have a healthy body. So in some way, shape or form, you need to do exercise and you need to look after yourself. And then fuel was one of the big ones, actually, that people don't often think about is, what you're putting into your body really does affect the rest of it. And so, we put together this course, myself and a friend, and we just gave it away for free. And it was like a video course. It was a 30-day, and it was really just designed to if you're feeling crap, do these things, and almost we guarantee that you will feel better. You might not fix yourself, if there is such a term, but this will help. And so we got that out there, and it started to blow up. And I guess mental health was super hot at the time. I mean, we were getting messages from ITV saying, would we be interested in an interview on This Morning? And we were getting supplement companies messaging us wanting to sponsor it. And I didn't want to make money from it. It wasn't about that. And it's just so crazy, actually. All the things I've done in my life, the one time I don't want to make money, I could have easily made it, which says a lot. And for a while, it was a really, really therapeutic thing for me, because I was just, I threw myself into it, and it was a real distraction and something that for me helped me get better, because I'm being productive, I'm being creative, I'm helping others, I'm focusing on fitness, all of these things that are super important in my life. And so that was something that really, really helped me. And the reason it doesn't exist anymore is because I came to a junction where I couldn't continue to throw so much into it. It was starting to affect my day job, and the day job has to be important because I need money, because I need to live. And so it was, well, if I'm not going to make money from this, I need to start focusing on the day job a little bit more. I took another job, and I made the really tough decision to just cancel it and quit. And so I deleted everything. It served a purpose. I felt a bit sad about it, but work had to come first.
Yeah, I remember that 10% project. I do remember that. That was a cool thing. Okay, so we've got a few minutes left, but I just want to wrap up on what you're doing now. Obviously, you've got a big a big mission ahead of you, a big journey ahead of you. So talk us through what's going on for you now.
I'm in a really comfortable place in work, in the sense that I'm doing really well. I've learned how to work again and not put so much pressure on myself. And I work for an amazing company that really look after their employees, have a super culture. And so I've always had this hunger to do something. We haven't really touched on it too much, although I have brought it up a few times, but alcohol's always been something that's had a really negative effect on my life. I'm not a great drinker. I think alcohol and poor mental health is a really bad combo, and loads of people relate to that. And so I drank a lot through lockdown. I wasn't drunk every day, but I had a beer by 3:00, and that turns into 3 or 4. And the next morning I'm feeling groggy and not myself. And that was continuous throughout May and June. And so restrictions were lifted. I found myself sat in a pub. I'm surrounded by people. They're getting more and more hammered. They're doing shots. I'm listening to their conversations, and there's just nothing positive about anything that's being said. And I just had this weird outer body experience where I looked at it and said, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done with it all. I know I'm going to feel bad. Yeah, I'm not getting anything from this. It's taking more than it's giving. And so I came home and told my long-suffering wife that I was giving up alcohol. And she said, yeah, nice one. I'll see you next week. We'll have the same conversation because you've been doing it for the last 20 years of your life. And I downloaded an app that's like Sober Streak. And so it tells you how many days and how much money you're saving and all of that. And I think now I'm on about 82 days. And the transformation that it's had in such a short period of time to my life is just insane. And I realize how much alcohol is holding me back. I've lost over a stone. I'm more creative. I'm spending more time with my family. I'm more present. My work has gone from strength to strength. I could sit here all day and tell you how great it's been. There've been some negatives as well, and I'm starting to blog about those and write about those. But I need to replace it with something. That's the problem. It took up such a large sort of element of my life that time needs replacing. And what I'm now doing is sort of challenging myself and pushing myself to do new stuff. So I created what I call a fuck it list. And that's got everything from fitness challenges to adrenaline, to being creative, to altruism, so helping other people. I've got all sorts of stuff on there. And I, as per usual, like Rich does, I created a brand. So it's called Seek More Life. And really my goal for the next, I guess, half of my life is to push myself and make myself as uncomfortable as possible, and show people that, you don't have to be the cool kid and go for drinks when you don't want to. It's okay not to drink. It's okay to focus on other areas in life and push yourself. And so it's new, it's fresh, but I've just had my birthday and I got a skydive bought for me, so I'm jumping out of a plane 3 miles.
It's the best thing. It is the best feeling. Yeah, I did it in Australia, mate. Oh,
yeah.
What's the feeling? What an experience.
So it doesn't go on the list if it's the criteria for what makes the list, and the list will grow and be added to over time. It's not finite. Is it something that I've been saying I'll do for like the last 25 years of my life but never done? Speak Spanish. My mates take the mick out of me because I've been saying I want to speak another language. I will speak another language, and that's.
Mate, I'm taking lessons at the moment. I'll pass you on my instructor if you want.
Amazing, yes, do please. So if it's something I've said that I'll do but never done, and so I beat myself up because of it, that's on the list. And if it's something I don't think I can do and makes me uncomfortable, that goes on the list. And the theory being is that I'm replacing I don't even know if you'd call it highs anymore, but the highs of alcohol with the highs of self-development and challenging and accomplishment. And so I started an Instagram account, a website. I'm blogging about it, and even in the short period of time that it's been live, oh man, it's again, the messages are starting to come in and people are telling me that they feel inspired. People are telling me that they're going out running. Anyone who knows me knows I can't run. And so I set myself big running challenges, and I've been suffering and just, but that's the reason is A, it holds me accountable and gives me something to do. But B, if one person sees it and thinks, do you know what? Actually, I don't need to keep drinking. I wonder what would happen if I did start painting, or I did, jump off a bloody cliff or whatever, that's what I'm hoping for. It's just that really positive ripple effect in the world.
Mate, I think that's like a good wrap up, because that's exactly, just to inspire or change or help one person is the goal, right? It's always the goal, and it's always been the goal for me. Like the same thing when I do my Instagram account, my coaching, like just to help one person. It's all it is, and then you move on to the next and the next and the next, and you'd be surprised that it becomes a ripple effect of how many people you actually can help. And I think it's the same case that maybe back in the day that we were all subconsciously looking for help, but we weren't able to see it, right? And it's just like now we're able to create that. I actually think I put on my my Instagram profile, I've actually changed it. Hold on, let me have a look. Oh yeah, don't wait for inspiration, become it.
Yes, that's it.
I waited for inspiration for so long, thinking it's going to come to me, but it never did.
Me too, mate. Me too. I mean, I was exactly the same. I would always give you excuses as to why. I would tell you I could do that, or I'd do that, but I never actually did it. I found that alcohol. I'm not anti-drinking. Bloody hell, I've done enough of it. I'm not even saying that I'll never drink again. It's definitely unlikely, and if I do, it's going to be in a much different way that I was used to. But for me, alcohol held me back from so much. What I now do is if I go to an event where I would have drunk, or even sometimes when my friends go out and drink and I could have gone, I make sure that I wake up at 6 or 7 o'clock the following morning and I'm productive. So it's like this compound theory that I've got, which is basically not only is it a positive that I'm not waking up with a hangover and destroying my day, but I'm actually going to wake up even earlier and start the day with something even more positive. So I'm really maximizing the decision that I've made not to drink. And it does Lisa's head in, because I'll be getting up at 7 a.m. on a Sunday and
waking her up, be like, oh, what are you doing?
Yeah. But she'd much rather that than the misery she used to have to face, which was like a 3-day affair and just didn't end well. And so for me it's really, really been destructive. I don't think Seek More will be a pure sobriety brand. That's not really what I'm trying to build. It's more you can stop doing some of the negative stuff in your life and you can replace it with some really challenging, cool stuff, and look how amazing you'll feel. So if someone jumps out of a plane because of me, then I've done a good job.
Mate, that'd be one of the best feelings you'll ever experience.
I can't wait. I've got the indoor one and the outdoor one. So we're doing the indoor one next weekend. I get to do that with the kids, which will be amazing. And then I've got to actually book it. But it's jumping out of a plane from 3 miles up. I can't wait. And then once that's done, God, I've got to think about what the next challenge.
After that, you'll be like, I can literally do anything now.
Exactly.
It's the first time you realise that you are in a plane with an open door. It's a very weird, surreal feeling.
Have you seen the, if anyone's listening to this and they want to see an amazing video, the Will Smith one? Have you seen the Will Smith one where he jumps out the plane?
Mate, I watched all of the YouTube. It's all on YouTube, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, he's basically on he must be doing a stand-up or something, but he's telling a story and it's funny. Yeah. But then he gets to the end and he just makes a really amazing point around, he talks about fear and the fact that he was scared, but then actually when he did it, it was amazing.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I think he talks about God, but the way, he puts the most amazing things on the other side of your fears. So just get over the fear, and that's when the magic happens. And I guess that's a really nice concept that I'm trying to sort of live by at the moment, is push myself. It might be uncomfortable, but imagine that feeling once I've done it. And so, and that's better than ever being drunk. So for me, that's the goal for the time being. And I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, nice. Do you know what fear stands for?
No.
False evidence appearing real.
Oh.
Come on.
Are you claiming that as your own?
Real, right? It's true. And also faith. Do you know what faith stands for?
No.
Finding answers in the heart.
Oh, lovely. God,
we're going to end on that anyway. We're over time. We're going to end on that. Rich, thank you so much, mate, for coming on. I really appreciate it. If you've seen value in this and you've got this far and you're still listening and you feel someone else that you know might be going through something similar to Rich, then please do share this with them. Share the story, because I think that's where we can really get the message out. We can really push people finding, comfort in speaking to someone else who's maybe been through similar experiences. Any final words, Rich?
I was going to say, and if there are people that are listening to this and it relates, like, reach out. I'm happy to chat.
Yeah.
It's weird. I've met people in Costa who I didn't even know, who reached out on social media that were struggling with something. I just went and had a coffee with them. I like talking about it. So if people have got questions, want advice, connect.
Yeah, I'll put all your links below for your Instagram, your website, everything like that. So you'll be able to find everything Rich is doing, including the blogs. This podcast will also, if you're sharing this, you can also watch the full video podcast on my YouTube channel. I'll put all the links below. Richard Wiliams, thank you so much, mate. I really appreciate it. I will pass the details to my Spanish teacher.
Please do.
Mi cumpleaños 25 de mayo.
There we go.
Me encanta el podcast. Right, anyway, I will see you soon, mate. Thanks so much.
Cheers, mate.
Take care, mate.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Ignite Your Mind podcast. This is a safe place for real talk on discovering powerful stories, talking about mental health, real business journeys, and hearing inspiring stories. Please do subscribe if you are listening to this on Spotify, YouTube, or Apple Podcasts, and leave me a comment. And more importantly, share this with anyone who you think may take value from it. I look forward to seeing you next week.